Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule,
Yeah, this one's all about everyday courage.
and how to use this super simple countdown technique
But 5 seconds, that's it.
to push past fear and hesitation.
Exactly. Like even when your brain is telling you to stay put.
We're going to break down how it all works, why it might actually work, the science behind it,
Well, we'll get into some really cool stories about people who've used it,
to make big changes in their lives.
like real transformations.
So what's the main idea behind this book?
Well, Robin starts with this analogy that I love. It's about courage being like water.
Water.
Yeah, think about it, like those two young fish swimming along.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
They're surrounded by water, obviously, but they don't even realize it.
Because it's just their natural environment.
Exactly. And she's saying that's how it is with courage for us.
Like, we're swimming in it, but don't even see it.
Right. We have so much courage within us, but we often overlook it.
So it's like an untapped resource we all have.
Totally. And Mel's own story, her personal journey, really brings this to life.
Oh, I'm curious to hear about that.
She was successful, like on paper, tech startups, coaching, development deals,
Sounds impressive.
radio, TV, the whole shebang.
But
But she was unhappy, deeply unhappy. And that's something I think so many people can relate to.
even with all the outward success, sometimes it's not enough.
Right. Like even when things look good from the outside, we all struggle with taking control of our life.
Feeling stuck, maybe.
Totally stuck.
So how did she turn things around? How did this whole 5-second rule thing come about?
So picture this. She's watching a rocket launch on TV.
Like a literal rocket launch.
Yeah. And they're doing the classic countdown, 5, 4, 3.
Okay, yeah.
And it just clicked for her, like a light bulb moment. What if, she thought, I use that same countdown to launch myself into action?
Before you could overthink it.
Exactly. Before my brain could talk me out of it.
Wow, that's so simple, yet so brilliant.
And she started small, like using the countdown to get out of bed in the morning.
I definitely need that some mornings.
But it quickly became a tool for tackling bigger challenges, too.
So it's like hacking your brain, in a way.
Yeah, using the simple countdown to override those negative thoughts.
To actually get things done.
Yep.
But is there any, real science behind this, or is it just a clever mind trick?
It's more than just a mind trick, actually. There's some cool neuroscience at play here.
Okay, tell me more.
Think about what happens when you see a countdown. Your brain shifts into this state of anticipation, like it's getting ready for action.
Oh, yeah, I can feel that.
And that 5-second countdown taps right into that.
And it activates a specific part of the brain,
Yeah, the prefrontal cortex.
which is responsible for.
Decision-making, focus, all that good stuff.
So it's like the countdown is giving your brain a jump start.
Exactly.
And what's really interesting is how Robbins connects this idea of acting on instinct with, famous inventions and discoveries.
Right.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, how about matches? Ever wonder how those came about?
I actually haven't.
Well, it was an accident.
Really?
Yeah. John Walker was stirring some chemicals, and suddenly, boom! He could have just ignored it, but something told him to explore it further.
And matches were born.
Exactly. It's amazing.
It really shows that even something so common came from someone following their gut feeling.
Exactly.
What other examples does she give?
Oh, so many. Think about Velcro. George de Mestral was walking his dog and noticed all those pesky burrs sticking to his fur.
I've been there.
Most people would just brush them off. But he got curious. Like, how do those things actually work?
And that led to Velcro.
Boom! Another accidental invention born from instinct.
Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern here.
And even the Starbucks Frappuccino.
No way. My go-to summer drink.
An assistant manager in California noticed sales were dipping in the hot weather.
Makes sense.
Had a hunch that a blended iced coffee drink would be a hit.
Sounds pretty smart to me.
Went with his gut, experimented, and a year later, the Frappuccino was born.
That's incredible. It's like a reminder that we all have these brilliant ideas inside of us, but we need to be brave enough to act on them.
Exactly. And that's what Mel Robbins is all about. The 5-second rule is a way to tap into that inner courage and start creating the life you actually want.
One 5-second decision at a time.
You got it.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to take more action. But I gotta admit, the fear of failure, it often holds me back. What does Mel Robbins say about that?
She has this really relatable story about her daughter, Kendall, who was hesitant to audition for a musical.
Oh, I've been there.
Kendall was super talented, but fear was getting in the way.
Stage fright, maybe?
Something like
Yeah.
that. And you know what she said? If I don't audition, at least I can tell myself I'm amazing.
Ouch.
I'm just too lazy to have what I want.
If that hits close to home.
Yeah.
It's easier to stay in our comfort zones, right? Tell ourselves we're capable rather than actually trying.
And risking failure. But the 5-second rule is all about breaking free from those comfort zones and taking those leaps of faith, even when we're scared.
So it's like using the countdown as a tool to push past the fear and just go for it.
Think of it like this. Even Rosa Parks' decision to not give up her seat on the bus, that was a 5-second decision, in a way.
Wow, yeah.
She had a choice to make.
Comply or...
Stand up for what she believed in. And that one act of spontaneous courage sparked a movement.
That's such a powerful example. It shows that even small acts of courage can have a ripple effect,
Exactly.
creating change far beyond ourselves.
And that's what Mel Robbins wants you to see, the power of those everyday moments of courage. They don't have to be, grand or heroic.
Right.
They can be simple acts of defiance against those voices of fear and self-doubt.
The ones that keep us playing small.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready to step into my own power.
Yeah.
But you know what else keeps me playing small? Worry and anxiety. I'm a master at overthinking.
Oh, I know that feeling.
And creating worst-case scenarios in my head. Does Mel Robbins address this at all?
Absolutely. She talks about how worry and anxiety, they're these universal experiences, but they often stem from our minds projecting into the future.
Like creating problems that might not even happen.
Right, like we're borrowing trouble from tomorrow.
I'm definitely guilty of that. So what's the antidote to this worry spiral?
She suggests a few things. One is the power of reframing. She tells a story about feeling overwhelmed while shopping with her daughter for prom.
Oh, prom dress shopping.
It all felt chaotic and stressful, but she used the 5-second rule to kind of interrupt that thought pattern.
And
Shifted her focus to gratitude. So instead of spiraling into those what ifs, she focused on the fact that she was having this special moment with her daughter.
so choosing to focus on the positive, even when things feel challenging.
Exactly. And she also talks about reframing panic attacks.
Oh, wow.
She describes them as near-miss experiences that are like totally out of context.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Like imagine driving on the highway, someone cuts you off, your body goes into fight or flight mode, right?
Oh, yeah, I've had those white-knuckle driving moments.
That's a near-miss experience.
Okay, but how does that relate to panic attacks?
A panic attack is like your body having that same physiological response, but without the actual threat. Your mind doesn't have a logical explanation for why your body's freaking out.
Oh, so it's like a false alarm going off in your system.
Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Robbins suggests changing the label, like from anxiety to excitement.
Wait, really?
Physiologically, they're very similar. Your heart rate increases, your breathing quickens, all that. The difference is in how your mind interprets those sensations.
So it's like tricking your brain into feeling good.
She even uses this technique herself before giving speeches. Instead of getting nervous, she tells herself she's excited.
I like it.
It's all about reframing.
Okay, speaking of feeling good, you know what does make me feel good? Procrastination. I'm a champion at putting things off.
Oh, I heard.
Does Mel Robbins have any advice for chronic procrastinators like me?
You're in luck. She has a whole chapter on it. And what she discovered about procrastination might surprise you.
Ooh, do tell.
There are actually 2 types. Destructive and productive.
Wait, what? There's a good kind of procrastination.
You heard that right.
Okay, I need to hear more about this.
Destructive is the kind we all know and hate, the one that leaves us feeling stressed and overwhelmed. But productive procrastination,
Yeah.
that can actually be beneficial.
I am shocked. How so?
Research shows that for creative tasks, procrastination can be helpful. When you step away from a project and let your mind wander, it allows for those subconscious processes to do their thing.
So those Netflix binges might not be so bad after all.
Especially if they lead to a breakthrough on a project. Robbins herself struggled with writer's block while writing this book, and she found that when she embraced productive procrastination, the ideas started flowing again.
Okay, but how do I know when it's productive procrastination versus just plain old laziness?
It comes down to self-awareness. Pay attention to how you're feeling. If you're procrastinating out of fear or anxiety, that's a sign to address those feelings. But if you're taking a break because your brain feels fried and suddenly you're inspired to reorganize your sock drawer,
I've been there.
well, maybe your subconscious is working on a solution while you're engaged in that seemingly unrelated task.
Okay, I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes the best ideas come when I'm least expecting them. But let's be real, mornings are tough. I am not a morning person.
I hear you.
Does Mel Robbins have any tips for creating a morning routine that doesn't make me want to hit the snooze button 100 times?
She actually has a whole 7-step morning routine designed to help you take control of your day. And I know you like structure and efficiency.
I do.
This should be right up your alley.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
First things first, banish your phone from the bedroom. No more scrolling through social media before bed or checking emails first thing in the morning.
Wait, seriously?
Ah,
I practically sleep with my phone under my pillow.
it's about creating a space for rest and rejuvenation. Mel and her husband, they keep their alarm clock in the bathroom, just far enough away to force them to get out of bed to turn it off.
That's a clever trick.
It works. But what about those mornings when even getting out of bed feels impossible?
Oh, those are the worst.
That's where the 5-second rule comes in. As soon as that alarm goes off, Mel counts down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and launches herself out of bed.
Before those snooze button demons can take hold.
Exactly. It's like mental boot camp for your willpower.
Okay, I'm sold on step 1. What's next?
Step 2 is all about hydration and movement. Mel starts her day with a big glass of water and some light stretching or exercise, just to wake up the body, get the energy flowing.
Love it.
Step 3 is feeding your mind. Spend some time reading or listening to something inspiring or educational. Could be a book, a podcast, anything that sparks your curiosity.
Yeah, it's like setting an intention for the day.
Exactly. And step 4 is goal setting. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the big picture, Mel recommends spending a few minutes each morning reviewing your goals
Makes sense.
and identifying 1 or 2 specific actions you can take that day to move you closer to achieving them.
Breaking those big goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
You got it.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this morning routine is less about checking things off a list and more about setting yourself up for a more fulfilling day.
Exactly. What's next?
I'm hooked. What's step 5?
Step 5 is visualization. Taking a few moments to visualize yourself achieving your goals, imagine experiencing that success.
Oh, I love visualization. It's like creating a mental movie of yourself living your best life.
And then step 6 is gratitude. Spend a few moments reflecting on the things you're grateful for. Could be something as simple as a warm cup of coffee or a sunny day.
Or that first sip of coffee.
Gratitude actually changes your brain chemistry, releases those feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin.
Give me all those happy hormones.
And finally, step 7.
The grand finale.
Plan your quitting time.
My quitting time. But we're just getting started.
It's about setting boundaries, ensuring you have time for the things that matter most outside of work.
Family, friends, hobbies.
Exactly.
You know, I tend to get so caught up in my work that I forget to prioritize those other areas of my life.
It happens. Mel even uses the 5-second rule to enforce this boundary. If she finds herself working past her quitting time, she counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and shuts down her computer.
No matter how tempting it is to keep going.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm adding planning my quitting time to my to-do list right now. I love how this morning routine is not just about productivity, but also about creating a more balanced life.
That's the goal.
But I know Mel Robbins doesn't just focus on, like, personal productivity, right? The book also talks about relationships.
You're right. She emphasizes how important relationships are for our well-being and happiness. One story that really got to me was about her father-in-law. He sadly passed away, but she remembers the day of his surgery. As they were wheeling him into the operating room, he looked back at his family and gave this little wave.
Ah, that's heartbreaking, yet so sweet.
It's a reminder to cherish those small gestures and never take our loved ones for granted.
Absolutely.
And she also talks about a conversation she had with her own father. He was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. It was a terrifying moment, but her father told her he felt lucky.
Lucky.
Yeah, he saw it as a second chance, an opportunity to appreciate his life and pursue his dreams. He even had a bucket list, including a trip to Africa and skydiving when he turned 90.
Wow, talk about living life to the fullest.
Right. He emphasized the importance of going after those dreams because you never know when those opportunities might be taken from you.
And that brings to mind the message Karen received before her husband, Josh, died suddenly.
Oh, yes. Josh lived his life with such urgency. Always said, don't wait. There's no right time to do the things that matter. The right time is now. And just hours before he passed, he sent Karen a text.
What did it say?
Simply, I love you guys.
Oh, wow. That just gave me chills. It's a reminder that life is precious, and we should express our love and appreciation for those we care about, while we can.
Exactly.
Okay, this deep dive is already taking me on an emotional roller coaster. But it's a good reminder. That we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
And the 5-second rule can be that tool that helps us take action,
Even when it's hard.
especially when it's hard.
Okay, I'm ready to embrace the power of the 5-second rule. But before we move on to part 2, I want to make sure you're getting the most out of this deep dive. What's resonating with you so far?
That's a great question. What's standing out to you? For me, it's that spark of inspiration. You know, that gut feeling that urges you to make a change, to take a leap of faith. Don't let those feelings fade away.
It's so easy to let those instincts pass us by, especially if we overthink things. But what if those instincts lead us down the wrong path? What if we make a mistake?
That's the thing about mistakes. They're inevitable. They're part of the learning process. The real mistake is letting fear stop you from doing anything.
Okay, I'm starting to embrace that fail-forward mentality, but sometimes, honestly, my instincts feel a bit off. Like, maybe I shouldn't always trust my gut.
That's a valid point. It's important to be discerning, right? Check in with your values. Are your actions aligned with your overall goals? The 5-second rule isn't about just throwing caution to the wind.
Right.
It's about using your instincts to make more aligned and courageous decisions.
So finding that balance between instinct and intention.
Yeah.
It all comes back to self-awareness. Knowing yourself, your values, your goals, being able to, distinguish between impulses that are aligned with your true self and those that might lead you astray.
You're exactly right. It's like you're building this strong internal compass that can guide you.
Love that. You know, one place where my instincts often lead me astray? Social media
Ah, yes. The ultimate time suck.
and comparison trap. I can lose hours scrolling through those perfectly curated feeds, comparing myself to everyone else's highlight reel. It makes me feel so inadequate.
I get it. It's a real struggle. Mel Robbins talks about setting boundaries with social media.
Boundaries, okay.
Recognizing that it can be great for connection, but it can also be a huge source of distraction and negativity.
Okay, preach. I need all the help I can get in that department. What kind of boundaries does she recommend?
Being mindful of how much time you spend on it, being intentional about what you're consuming.
So no more mindlessly scrolling for hours.
Think about setting limits. Create space in your day for things that nourish your mind and body. Mel Robbins' daughter, Kendall, she actually deleted social media apps from her phone altogether.
Wow, that's dedication. I don't know if I'm ready for a full digital detox,
Yeah.
but I could definitely start by setting some time limits.
Yeah.
Maybe designate my bedroom as a no-scroll zone.
It's about reclaiming your time and attention and focusing on things that bring you joy. And this applies to your career, too, you know?
Oh, don't even get me started on my career. I've been in the same job for a while, and honestly, I'm feeling stuck. Like I'm not living up to my full potential. I know I need to make a change, but it's scary.
It sounds like you're at a crossroads, sensing a misalignment between where you are and where you want to be. That fear is completely understandable.
Yeah.
Careers are a big part of our lives.
Does Mel Robbins offer any guidance for navigating career transitions or finding more fulfillment in our work?
She dedicates a whole section to it. She emphasizes the importance of pursuing your passions and aligning your work with your values.
I am all about that. But sometimes it feels like there's this giant gap between what I'm passionate about and what I actually do for a living.
I think that's a common feeling. Mel encourages you to tap into your curiosity, explore those interests that light you up, even if they seem totally unrelated to your current career.
So it's about following those threads of inspiration.
Yeah.
Those what-if moments.
The things that make your heart beat faster.
Okay, I'm getting excited. But how do I actually translate those passions into a fulfilling career?
It all starts with exploration, taking classes, workshops, reading books, immersing yourself in those areas that fascinate you. See where it leads you.
I love that. Giving myself permission to play and experiment.
Discover what truly lights you up.
But what if those explorations don't lead to anything concrete?
Sometimes those explorations lead to unexpected opportunities and career paths you never even considered. Mel shares stories of people who've used the 5-second rule to make big career changes, stepping outside of their comfort zones and chasing those dreams that once felt impossible.
Okay, I need to hear about these career change champions. Tell me everything.
There's this story about Jo, a banker in London. She had this successful career, but deep down, she wasn't fulfilled.
I've been there.
She'd always loved nutrition, but never considered it as a real career.
I can relate to that.
Mhm.
Sometimes we dismiss our passions as hobbies, thinking they're not practical enough.
Well, Jo decided to take a leap of faith. She started taking nutrition classes at night, just for fun. And guess what?
Those classes ignited something within her. I love when that happens.
Her new knowledge and passion for nutrition started to, spill over into her work. She began sharing healthy recipes with colleagues, offered tips on mindful eating, even organized wellness workshops at her company.
It's like she was creating her dream job within her existing role.
Exactly. Those small acts of courage, those 5-second decisions to share her passion, they opened up all these possibilities. Her colleagues loved it, and soon she was being asked to speak at conferences and write articles.
The momentum was building.
And eventually, she felt confident enough to take the leap, quit her banking job, and started her own nutrition coaching business.
Wow, she went from banker to wellness guru. That's incredible.
It all started with that one small act of courage, a 5-second decision to enroll in that first nutrition class.
It's so inspiring. It's like those small steps can lead to massive transformations. But what about when you're afraid of disappointing others?
I have this dream of, I don't know, let's say starting my own pottery business.
Okay.
But I'm worried about what my family will think.
It's natural to want validation and support from the people you love. But sometimes those expectations can turn into cages, trapping you in a life that isn't truly yours. Mel Robbins says, be true to yourself, even if it means disappointing others.
Okay.
She tells this story about Todd in Australia. He was passionate about physical education, but his parents, they pushed him toward a more traditional career. So he ended up studying law and business.
Even though his heart wasn't in it.
He was miserable. He knew what he wanted to do, but he was paralyzed by the thought of disappointing his parents.
I can feel that inner turmoil.
He spent years wrestling with this. One day he was sitting in a lecture, tax law, and it just hit him. He had to make a change.
Darn the 5-second rule.
He literally counted down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walked out of that lecture hall, and never looked back. Amazing. What did he do?
Went straight to the registrar's office, unenrolled from the university, and drove 2 hours to apply for a degree in physical education. Sat down with his parents and explained his decision, told them that he loved them, but he needed to pursue his own path, even if it meant deviating from their expectations.
That's so brave.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been an easy conversation, but it shows how powerful it can be to honor your own truth.
And once he made that decision, everything started falling into place. He thrived in his program, graduated with honors, and launched his own personal training business.
Wow.
He found a career that brought him joy and fulfillment and purpose.
That's a great reminder that we sometimes have to be willing to disappoint others.
Yeah.
In order to live a life that's true to ourselves.
Yeah.
And those moments of friction,
Yeah.
they can actually lead to deeper understanding and stronger relationships. I'm feeling really inspired. But you know what always holds me back? My inner critic.
Oh, the inner critic, that voice of self-doubt that can really sabotage your dreams.
It's like a constant loop of negative self-talk, telling me I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. It's so discouraging.
We all have that inner critic. Mel Robbins has some great advice for dealing with it. It comes back to, you guessed it, the 5-second rule. When you notice those negative thoughts creeping in, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and interrupt that thought pattern.
So it's like a mental reset button.
Exactly. And once you've interrupted that negative self-talk, you can replace it with more empowering thoughts.
Okay, so I'm counting down, interrupting the negativity. What kind of empowering thoughts should I be replacing them with?
Mel suggests focusing on your strengths, your accomplishments, the qualities that make you unique and valuable. It's like giving yourself a pep talk.
Right.
Reminding yourself of all the awesome things you've already achieved and all the potential you have within you.
This is starting to feel like a self-love revolution. But what about when my inner critic is like extra loud? It feels impossible to drown it out sometimes.
It can feel like a broken record, for sure. Mel Robbins suggests this fun technique. Personify your inner critic.
Wait, what? Like give it a name and a face.
Yeah, imagine your inner critic as a character, separate from your true self. Give it a name, a voice, maybe even a silly outfit.
Okay, I'm picturing mine as a grumpy old troll wearing a polka dot bathrobe.
Perfect. So whenever that negative self-talk starts, picture that grumpy old troll in its polka dot bathrobe, trying to bring you down.
I'm already starting to laugh. It's like taking away its power.
Exactly. By personifying your inner critic, you create distance between those negative thoughts and your true self. You recognize them as just thoughts, not truths, and you can choose not to believe them.
Brilliant. It's like I've suddenly gained control over my own mind.
The 5-second rule empowers you to take ownership of your thoughts. Choose the ones that serve you and discard the ones that hold you back.
This is so empowering. But sometimes those negative thoughts, they're rooted in the past, In mistakes I've made, failures I've experienced, it can feel like I'm carrying around all this baggage that weighs me down.
Our past experiences definitely shape our present beliefs and behaviors. Mel Robbins addresses this, emphasizing the importance of forgiveness.
Forgiveness. It can be so hard to let go of past hurts, to forgive myself.
It's a process for sure, but forgiveness isn't about condoning past actions, it's about releasing those negative emotions.
Okay, I'm starting to understand. But how do you actually practice forgiveness?
Mel Robbins suggests this visualization. Imagine yourself writing a letter to the person or situation that caused you pain. Pour out all your feelings.
Just getting those feelings out on paper sometimes feels so good.
Exactly. And once you've written everything down, imagine burning that letter, like releasing those negative emotions into the universe.
It's like a symbolic act of letting go, freeing yourself from the weight of the past.
And forgiveness isn't just about letting go of external hurts, it's about forgiving ourselves too. We tend to be our own worst critics.
It's true. I often beat myself up over past mistakes.
We're all human. We all make mistakes.
Perfectly imperfect.
Exactly.
But sometimes those past mistakes feel so big, so monumental, that it's hard to even imagine forgiving myself.
Think of those past mistakes as lessons, opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing them as failures, see them as stepping stones on your path to becoming a better version of yourself.
This is such a good reminder to be kind to myself, to embrace my imperfections and to see my past mistakes as opportunities for growth and learning.
And the 5-second rule can support you through this process. When those feelings of guilt or shame start to creep in, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and interrupt that negative thought pattern.
I'm ready to release the past and step into the present.
That's the true power of the 5-second rule. It's about empowering yourself to create the life you desire, one courageous decision at a time.
This deep dive has been a whirlwind of emotions, but it's also been so insightful and inspiring. What are your final thoughts on the 5-second rule? What's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with?
It's like shedding those old layers, those limiting beliefs that hold us back. It's like a mental makeover.
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
And it's true what Mel Robbins says, this journey of personal growth, it never really ends.
Right.
It's not like a destination. It's a lifelong adventure.
I love that. But I know it can be tough to stay focused on those bigger aspirations, when you're caught up in the everyday chaos of life.
Oh, tell me about it. It's so easy to get swept away by work, family, those endless to-do lists.
Exactly. So how do we stay connected to those things that light us up, those dreams that make us feel truly alive?
Right. How do we keep that spark going when life gets so busy?
Mel Robbins talks about creating rituals that nourish your soul.
Okay.
Activities that remind you of who you are and what you truly value.
I love that. It's like creating a sacred space for the things that bring you joy and fulfillment.
It could be something as simple as a daily walk in nature, or a weekly coffee date with a friend, or a monthly visit to a museum.
Ooh, I'm picturing my ideal self-care ritual. A cozy hammock, a good book, and a view of the ocean.
Dream big. And those rituals don't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. It's just about carving out those small pockets of time to recharge and reconnect with yourself.
I'm all about those little moments of bliss. But sometimes it feels selfish to prioritize my own needs. Shouldn't I be focusing on taking care of everyone else?
That's a common misconception. Self-care isn't selfish. When you take care of yourself, you're actually better equipped to take care of others. Think of it like the oxygen mask analogy. You have to put on your own mask first before you can help anyone else.
That's so true. When I'm exhausted and running on empty, I'm no good to anyone. But it's still hard to break free from those patterns, putting everyone else's needs before my own.
I get it. That's where the 5-second rule can be a game changer. When you notice those feelings of guilt creeping in, when you're about to put everyone else's needs before your own, just count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and choose yourself.
Okay, I'm ready to reclaim my me time.
Uh-huh.
But there's one area where I really struggle with that balance between self-care and selflessness. My relationships.
Relationships, they can be so beautiful and messy and complicated all at the same time.
Right. I love pouring my heart and soul into my relationships. But sometimes I get so caught up in taking care of everyone else that I lose myself in the process.
It's a delicate dance. Mel Robbins has some great advice for navigating those dynamics with more grace and intention. One of the key principles she emphasizes is setting boundaries.
Boundaries. I hear that word all the time, but I'm not always sure what it means practically.
Think of boundaries as limits you set to protect your own well-being, to ensure that your relationships are healthy and reciprocal.
So it's about creating space for both yourself and the other person to thrive.
Beautifully put. Boundaries aren't about building walls or shutting people out. They're about creating clear expectations and communicating your needs in a loving and assertive way.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But setting boundaries can be scary, especially if you're worried about hurting the other person's feelings or damaging the relationship.
That fear is so normal. But Mel Robbins reminds us that healthy boundaries are actually essential for any relationship to thrive. When you're clear about your own needs and limits, it creates space for more authentic connection and mutual respect.
I love that. It's like boundaries are the foundation for a stronger and more fulfilling relationship.
Exactly. And setting those boundaries sometimes requires courage. It might involve saying no to a request or expressing a different opinion, or simply taking some time for yourself, even if it means disappointing someone else.
And that's where the 5-second rule comes in.
Exactly. When you notice yourself hesitating to set a boundary, when those fears or doubts start to creep in, just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and speak your truth.
I'm feeling ready to set some boundaries. But there's another area where I struggle in relationships. Communication. I'm good at expressing myself, but not always the best listener. And I find myself holding back from sharing my true feelings, especially when I'm worried about conflict.
It's such a common pattern. We often avoid those difficult conversations, those moments of vulnerability and honesty, because we're afraid of what might happen.
So how do we break free from those patterns
Mm.
and create more open and authentic connections?
Mel Robbins says it starts with empathy, truly listening to understand the other person's perspective, even if it's different from your own.
Empathy. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to put your own ego aside and step into someone else's shoes.
It's definitely a skill that takes practice. Mel suggests imagining yourself as a detective, gathering clues to understand the other person's thoughts, feelings, and motivations.
I love that, turning a potential conflict into a collaborative investigation.
Exactly. And once you've gathered those clues, you can respond with more compassion and understanding.
Okay, I'm ready to channel my inner Sherlock Holmes. But sometimes it's not just about listening. It's about having the courage to speak your own truth, even when it's uncomfortable.
That's a powerful point. Authentic communication requires both empathy and honesty. It's about expressing your own thoughts and feelings in a way that's both respectful and assertive.
How do you find that balance? How do you speak your truth without creating unnecessary conflict or drama?
Mel Robbins suggests using I statements, focusing on your own experience and perspective rather than blaming or accusing the other person.
So instead of saying, you always do this, I could say, I feel hurt when this happens.
Exactly. It's about owning your feelings and expressing them in a way that invites dialogue instead of defensiveness.
This is so helpful. I can see how that subtle shift in language can make a big difference.
And remember, you can use the 5-second rule for those moments of communication courage. When you find yourself hesitating to speak your truth, just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let your authentic voice be heard.
Wow, this deep dive has been such a journey. We've explored the power of everyday courage, the science behind the 5-second rule, and how this simple technique can transform our lives, from productivity and well-being to relationships and career aspirations.
It has been an incredible journey. I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered to step into your own power and start living a more courageous and fulfilling life.
Absolutely. Mel Robbins has created this whole community of people using the 5-second rule to make positive change in their own lives and the world. It's like a global movement of everyday courage.
And remember, the power to change your life is already within you. You have everything you need to achieve your dreams, overcome your fears, and create a life aligned with your values and passions. So when you hear that little voice inside urging you to go for it, listen to it.
Such a great reminder. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of everyday courage. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep pushing those boundaries.